I just want to say before I start this does contain spoilers to Gundam The Witch from Mercury, so take that as a warning. This is your only warning. I'm going to spoil this heavily. Gundam is a terrifying series. It is huge, and the lore stretches on and on and on and on and on for ages. I've been scared to start Gundam for a really long time. So on a whim, I decided to start Gundam The Witch from Mercury. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. The show is separate from the overall story of Gundam, making it super easy for an idiot like me to start. Gundam is a mecha anime, and I absolutely love mecha anime. It's a genre that is used a lot to explore political ideas, which I just cannot get enough of. Take, for example, the show 86, which is a show I might also talk about in the future. 86 explores the exploitation of minorities in a corrupt country and how this affects those that are being exploited, and how the government works to cover up these atrocities and prevent the citizens from knowing exactly what is going on behind the peace the citizens experience. This is when I believe mecha anime is at its peak, when it explores specific political ideas, and Gundam The Witch from Mercury is no different. The Witch from Mercury is a story that takes place in the future of humanity, where humans have left Earth and live on planets throughout the stars. You explore how the wealth distribution has gotten so bad that those at the top have an unfathomable amount of money, and those at the bottom have absolutely nothing, and fight to get through each day. Those with money live cushy lives in space as CEOs or high-ranking officers. Before people left the Earth, Gundam was created. Now, Gundams are incredibly powerful robots that are capable of ridiculous power and destruction. However, at a cost. They kill whoever pilots them. After Gundam is created, many wars break out on Earth between, people fighting with the Gundams and just between nations as a whole. And after all this has happened, we pick up with the Prologue, where we follow Prospera, who works at a factory which builds Gundams. The factory is then attacked because it's the last factory in the solar system that builds and tests Gundam tech. So they must be destroyed and, kill everyone that builds them as well. This ends with only 2 survivors. We find out later there was 3 survivors, being Prospera and her daughter Eri. They escape in the only Gundam left and they start to fly it. It is discovered that Eri can pilot the Gundam without dying from it, which has never been seen before. Thus ends the prologue. There's a few other things that happen. For example, they talk about the politics of space and how Earth is a wasteland of what it used to be, and how all the rich people fled Earth, leaving everyone there left trying to survive on a broken world. And after learning all this, I realized that no matter what the Earthians do, they are the good characters in this story. We then pick up years later with our main character, Suletta Mercury, who has just started at a new school and is very excited to see what the future holds. Unfortunately, she immediately makes enemies and gets forced into a duel with the best duelist in the school, who is Guel. I thought it rhymed, but I think it's actually Guel. Classic setup. Everyone's seen this before, except this time, instead of a male main character fighting over a woman, it's a relatable female main character fighting over a woman. Super different to anything we've seen before. I read someone saying that they don't like how much power the students hold over the plot. Whereas I think it's quite a good idea, showing how the next generation are eventually going to take over and create the future they want to see, which we get to see happen throughout Season 1. As well as schools throughout our own history being incredibly important to shaping the political ideas and morals of society. I mean, if you look at what's going on right now with politics, it's crazy how much it has to do with schools and children. So I do quite like the idea of a space academy setting where the students have much more of a say over the future. Anyway, Suletta agrees to duel Guel. However, this leads everyone to discover she has a Gundam, which is a big no-no. That isn't allowed here. So they say they're going to scrap the Gundam. Miorine, who is the daughter of the president of the biggest company, making him the most powerful person in space because money is power, makes a deal with Suletta that she is willing to help her win so Ariel, her Gundam, won't be destroyed. This allows Suletta to verse Guel and win, giving her Miorine's hand in marriage. If you haven't gathered it already, Suletta and Miorine are the two main characters of this show and are really quite interesting. Suletta is just like me, for real. She is anxious and shy, and without her Gundam, relatively weak, which is kind of a breath of fresh air after seeing so many overpowered, extremely charismatic male leads that we've seen in the past. She is happy, more carefree and relaxed character, whereas Miorine is the cold, stoic and sometimes cruel lead. She's the daughter of Rembrandt Delling, who is a cold and distant father, and throughout the first 12 episodes of season 1, their relationship is a very big focus in the story. The relationship Miorine and her father Delling is contrasted with Suletta and her mother, who have a much closer relationship, which is then subverted later in the series, showing how much of a toxic relationship Suletta and her mother actually have, but I am getting ahead of myself. The two main characters are extremely interesting and have a great dynamic, with Miorine originally seeing Suletta as a tool to get back at her father, and then eventually growing to actually care for her, whereas Suletta is seen by many as nothing more than someone who can pilot a Gundam and just wanting to enjoy her school life and make friends. The show's plot is also great. Every action that is taken by the characters is always an attempt to get a political advantage over someone else, all except Suletta, who after becoming Miorine's groom, cannot turn down a duel and has to keep winning. She joins the Earth House and makes friends there. I'll explain the house. In the school, there are houses like Harry Potter, except it's about money instead of personality. Each are attached to a branch of Delling's business and are some of the most powerful families in space. The Earth House, of course, is looked down upon because it's filled with Earthians, and they are poor. So of course Spacians hate poor people because, you know, rich people hate poor people. It's real, you know, it's like real life. But these Earthian outcasts end up being the only people who are willing to accept Suletta and become her closest friends. The first half of season 1 is building up Suletta's life and the world they live in. It very much focuses on Miorine and her father, as Miorine discovers that Gundams were never supposed to be weapons. They were actually made to be medical technology. So she attempts to bring back Gundam and starts a corporation called Gundam Inc. The Earth House works with her to help build prosthetic limbs and medical tech to help people in need. This all leads to a terrorist attack on the facility while all the major characters are there. Miorine finally has a heart-to-heart with her father and gains a small amount of respect for him, whereas Suletta's mother convinces her that killing is okay if you're protecting someone. So she murders a terrorist to save Miorine and her father. I love murdering terrorists. It's the best way to justify killing people. It's at this point the show takes a turn. We continue to expand on what's happening on Earth and explain why the Earth terrorists are attacking in the first place. They use aspects of terror to gain the advantage over the Spacians and stop them from having the supplies and machinery to conduct raids on Earth. We get to witness this in part 2 of season 1. It's been a while since I mentioned Guel. While Suletta and Miorine have been going about their lives, Guel has had his own shit going on. After losing to Suletta, he gets kicked out of his house by his father for being such an embarrassment. Eventually he decides to try and go to Earth. However, on the way he gets wrapped up in the terrorist attack and caught by Earthians and taken as a prisoner. While on Earth, we get to see what a raid by Spacians is really like, and it is fucked up. In retaliation for the terrorist attack on the repair station, they send mobile suits to attack where they think the terrorists are and kill as many people as possible, including children. Goel sees this and it changes him as a person, as it does having a child die in your arms. Yeah, he has a girl die in his arms and he's like, fuck man, maybe I'm the bad guy. He loses his pride, which he used to think was the most important thing. He no longer cares about Spacians, he just wants to stop the fighting. Him teaming up with Miorine is one of the most interesting points in part 2. Seeing them try to stop the fighting and repair the rift between space and Earth is such a hopeful story. However, this is all at the cost of Suletta's mental well-being. The first 12 episodes build up everything around Suletta, giving her everything she ever wanted, but the next 12 take all of that away. It destroys her. Suletta really starts to care about Miorine and can't wait to get married. Meanwhile, Miorine discovers that Suletta is willing to do anything her mother says, even if that means killing people. So she makes a deal with Suletta's mum to take Ariel away from Suletta, so in theory, she will be free from all the pain, but her side of the deal is she must become president and continue development on Quiet Zero, which will allow Eri, Prespera's real daughter, who is inside Ariel. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. The reason Ariel doesn't kill the pilot is because she's made out of a real human. So Quiet Zero is supposed to make Eri able to live again, like free from Ariel. So Miorine betrays Suletta. Suletta cries, it's real sad. She then goes to talk to Miorine again about how much that hurt her, but instead of seeing Miorine, she sees Ariel and finally meets Eri, who tells her to fuck off, and her own mother tells her to fuck off, and it's really sad. Yeah, so basically Suletta isn't actually a real human. She's kind of like a clone of Eri that was made to unlock Eri's true potential and allow Eri to activate Quiet Zero, but that's beside the point. It's not that important. So Suletta's really sad now. She eats cold ham for her depression meal, and she's so real for that. I have spoken a lot about the plot, but I only really spoke about the main characters. There is so much going on in this show that it would take forever for me to break it down. I recommend this if you're a fan of political shows and mecha, because there's so much going on that I haven't even touched on. There's many different characters and groups of people all trying to vie for power in this business, each to varying degrees of success. What makes this show so good is how it has a hopeful outlook on the future. It shows the younger generation growing up and trying to fix the mistakes of the past, even if it's a difficult thing to do. I'd say it probably has the same problem that Parks and Recreation has, where it's too hopeful of an outlook on the future. Like Parks and Rec makes politics look really happy and nice and fun when it's not at all that happy and nice and fun. If you haven't seen Parks and Rec, you don't really know what I'm talking about. If you have, you know that it's got this weirdly hopeful outlook of American politics. It also has Joe Biden in it. I'm getting off track. At first I didn't like it because I thought it was saying that rich people are the only ones that can fix anything. But then I noticed it's not really about that. It's about giving the power to make change to those who will one day lead the world. And I mean, the way they solve the issue is by selling the business, the Gundam business, to the poor people. They give it to the poor people. Socialism. That was the answer all along in this show, and it works. Take that as you will. Gundam proves that socialism works. Wow. Great piece of evidence to back up socialism in an argument. Episode 19 is the best episode in the entire season, being the culmination of Prespera's plans for Quiet Zero, and also war crimes. Yippee! This show is only one season, so there's literally no reason not to watch it if you're a little bit interested in it. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I said a lot of positive things about this show. It's not perfect, of course. I mean, you know, what show is fucking perfect? This show definitely has a lot of flaws. For example, I don't like how they get rid of the whole, like, you know, the corporations being the bad and they just make one big bad being Suletta's mum, because I feel like that's kind of a cop-out. And then they do have a big bad, but then they just defeat him really easy and he's not even a problem. Like, why was he even there? Just get rid of the guy. He didn't need to be there. In the final episode, they introduce the whole Suletta's mum and her big plan, but then there's also another dude who is gonna be the president of the corporation, and he has a giant death laser beam, and he's like, okay, we're gonna kill you. And then they go, nuh-uh. And he goes, fuck, I've been beaten, and that's it. He's not even that big of a deal. Like, I do not know why he was even there. They introduce him in, like, the third last episode, and then you think he's gonna be, like, this big threat, and then he doesn't do shit. Fire the laser! Bro really thinks he's Darth Vader. But then, like, there's not even a fight against him. He's just dead. Oh, no, sorry, he's not even dead. He just gives up. He's like, okay, I give up. You took my laser away. I'll go. Sorry, guys. My bad. I'm not a fan when shows have this really interesting concept of, corporations being the bad guys and then, the poor people being the good guys, but then they go, hold on, we can't get too political, so let's just, make another bad guy, and then we'll make another bad guy, so that the first bad guy can have a redemption. I'm not a fan of that. This show, basically what I'm saying is this show isn't perfect. I may have been, saying a lot of positive things about this show, but it ain't all good. There is a lot of negatives in it. I just wanted to throw this in because I didn't want to be like, yeah, no, this is the best show. And this is coming from someone who hasn't seen any other Gundam, so take everything I say with a grain of salt, because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I hope that clears things up, because I may have been, I like to say positive things, I'm not a negative person. No, I'm kidding. I'm a fucking hater. I love hating on things. Anyway, the ending is really quite sweet, and I'm a sucker for when shows play the first opening at the ending of the show. Like, what happens in Mob Psycho 100, Season 3. It's really good. However, I am so mad we never get to see Suletta and Miorine's wedding. It's just an offhanded comment that Eri is now Miorine's sister-in-law. I won't forgive them for that. But I'm glad the show doesn't stay its welcome and ends without being rushed. It turns out I had way more to say about this show than I expected. This was originally going to be a shortish video because I was like, surely I don't have that much to say about Gundam, the Witch from Mercury. But I did. I did. I hope this video made sense. I feel like the structure was a little bit off, but I'll fix that in the future. Thank you for making it this far in the video. As a little reward, I'll tell you a fun fact about the show. The first opening is made by the band Yoasobi, the same people who made the opening to Oshinoko. But you never see TikToks with this opening, even though it goes hard as fuck.